In 1934, a corn farmer outside Cedar Rapids, Iowa, kept a sawed-off shotgun behind the kitchen door and a lead-filled sap in the bib of his overalls. He had carried both since he was a boy. That same summer, a law written for Chicago gangsters turned nearly everything in his pockets into a federal crime. But here is the twist. He was not a criminal. He was a church-going father of four, and almost everything that kept his family safe on a dark country road is now illegal in a dozen states or more. Number 3 on this list got taxed into extinction in 1934, and for most farmers, that tax cost more than the gun itself. Number 2 was so common that hardware stores sold it right next to the nails. And number 1 was already outlawed in 43 states before your grandfather was even born. These 10 tools were not banned because they failed. They were banned because city lawmakers panicked over headlines about Capone and Dillinger and wrote laws that swept up every farmer, rancher, and night watchman in the country. The gangsters kept their pistols. Your great-grandfather lost his barn gun and the sap in his pocket. Before we start, hit subscribe, because once you see what an honest farmer carried without a second thought, you will never look at your own coat pocket the same way again. Let us count down the 10 outlawed self-defense tools every 1930s farmer kept loaded. Number 10, the bullwhip. Every farm with cattle had one coiled in the barn, and a man who knew how to use it could turn back a charging dog or a drunk stranger without ever laying a hand on him. The crack you hear is not leather hitting anything. It is the tip breaking the sound barrier, moving faster than 760 miles per hour, the first human tool ever known to do it. A skilled hand could flick a horsefly off a mule's ear at 15 feet. That same hand could lay open a man's cheek from across the yard. It was a tool, a signal, and a warning, all at once. Today, several states classify a weighted or modified whip as a deadly weapon, and carrying one with intent can bring a felony charge. Number 9, the sandbag. The poorest farmer in the county could afford this one because it was nothing but a sock or a leather pouch packed tight with sand or fine shot. Swung hard, it hit like a hammer, but it left no mark and broke no skin, which is exactly why both lawmen and farmers trusted it. It would not kill a man, only fold him. Here is what almost nobody knows. The words sandbag and sand club are written by name into California's weapons code, right beside the blackjack and the slingshot. A sock full of sand. Fill one today in the wrong state, and you are holding a prohibited weapon. Your grandmother kept one by the back door and called it common sense. Number 8, the push dagger. A short blade set into a T-shaped handle that sat inside a closed fist, the steel poking out between two fingers. It came up through the gambling halls and cattle towns of the 1800s, small enough to vanish in a vest pocket, fast enough to end a fight before it began. A farmer driving stock to the railhead with a season's pay in his coat kept one where no pickpocket would ever find it. It needed no skill, only a fist. That is also why the states moved against it. Lumped in with dirks and daggers, the push knife is now banned or restricted across much of the country, and concealing one is a felony in places like California and New York. A blade your great-grandfather thought of as simple pocket insurance. Number 7, the knuckle knife. When American doughboys came home from the trenches in 1918, many brought their issued trench knife with them, a blade welded to a brass knuckle handle so a soldier could stab or punch with the same hand. On the farm, it became a do-everything tool and a last resort defense, sharpened on the same stone as the kitchen knives. One veteran-turned-wheat farmer kept his in the truck for 30 years. The military designed it. The government issued it. Then that same government, state by state, made civilian ownership a crime by banning the brass knuckle handle that made it work. Today, the knuckle knife is illegal in roughly 20 states. The exact tool a nation handed its sons and later told them to throw away. Number 6. Brass knuckles. The idea is as old as the Roman cestus, but American soldiers in the Civil War cast their own from wood, iron, and melted lead beside the campfire, and the design barely changed for the next 80 years. A farmer could order a pair from a mail catalog for pocket change, slip them on, and turn a bony fist into a sledgehammer. No moving parts, no reloading, nothing to jam. They lived in glove boxes and overall pockets from Maine to California. And there is the catch. As of today, brass knuckles are flat out illegal to own in 20 states, including California, New York, and Michigan, with no permit available and no grandfather clause. A tool a soldier once forged by hand is now a crime just to hold. Number 5. The sword cane. To every eye on the road, it was an old man's walking stick. Twist the handle, and a foot of steel slid free. From 1798 all the way to 1930, cane fighting was a respectable American skill, taught in studios and printed in manuals, because a gentleman could not always carry a pistol, but nobody questioned a cane. A farmer with a bad hip and a long walk to town carried one and feared nothing on the road. It was self-defense, hidden inside a medical necessity. That is precisely why the law turned on it. A concealed blade is a concealed weapon, and today carrying a sword cane is a felony in numerous states, no matter your age or your limp. The most polite weapon ever made, outlawed for being too quiet. Number 4. The cane gun. If the sword cane was quiet, this one was silent until it was not. Remington and Sons built walking canes with a working firearm hidden in the shaft and a trigger near the handle, a single shot ready for whatever came down a dark road. Gentlemen carried them. Detectives carried them. So did more than one prosperous farmer who never advertised the fact. It looked like dignity and fired like a derringer. Then came the National Firearms Act, which swept the cane gun into a category called any other weapon, demanding federal registration, a tax stamp, and government permission to own one. The disguised cane that protected travelers for a century now requires a federal file with your name in it, and owning one off the books is a felony that carries hard prison time. Number 3. The sawed-off shotgun. This was the most honest farm gun in America. You took the long-barreled shotgun already standing in the corner, cut it down so it swung fast in a barn or a doorway, and you had the perfect answer to a fox in the henhouse or a prowler in the yard. Then came June of 1934. The National Firearms Act slapped a $200 tax on any shotgun with a barrel under 18 inches. $200 in 1934 was more than most farmers had paid for the gun, sometimes more than they earned in 2 months. The law was aimed at Chicago gangsters, but the only people who could not dodge it were the honest ones. Today, that same cut-down barrel, carried without a stamp, is a 10-year federal felony. Number 2, the blackjack. A flat leather pouch with a lead weight in the head and a spring in the handle. It fit a palm like it was made for it, and one short swing put a man on the ground without drawing a drop of blood. Hardware stores and farm catalogs sold them beside the nails, and lawmen carried the very same tool they would later arrest you for owning. California has banned the billy, the blackjack, and the sap since at least 1917, more than a century ago, and a dozen states still forbid them outright today. Think about that. A weighted strip of leather your grandfather kept in his truck is now a criminal offense, while the men who wrote the law wore one on their own belts. Few tools expose the double standard so plainly. Number 1, the slungshot. Not a slingshot. A slungshot was a heavy weight, often a lead ball or an iron nut, wrapped in a tight knot of cord with a loop for the wrist. Sailors invented it from the monkey's fist knot they used to throw mooring lines, and a farmer could make one in 10 minutes with a rock and a length of twine. Swung from the wrist, it was silent, deadly, and impossible to spot in a pocket. And that is exactly why it terrified the law. Florida outlawed the slungshot in 1868, one of the earliest weapon bans in all of American history. And by the early 1900s, at least 43 states had followed. A weapon a child could build from a sock and a stone was banned in nearly every state in the Union before your grandfather drew his first breath. That is how dangerous they decided your self-reliance was. Here is the truth your grandfather understood, and we let slip away. None of these tools were evil. They were equalizers, the thin line between a lone family on a dark road and easy prey. They were banned not because they stopped working, but because a self-reliant citizen is harder to control than a dependent one. So here is your challenge. Pick one, just one. Find out whether it is legal where you live, learn its real history, and ask the oldest person in your family if your people ever carried it. I promise you, somebody in your bloodline kept one within arm's reach. Tell me in the comments which one surprised you most and which one your family still has in a drawer somewhere. That knowledge did not die with them. It just went quiet, and it is time we started listening again.